Well, on Monday, the New South Wales government announced it will commit nearly $7 million to crack down on the illegal sale of vapes to support the recovery as well of young addicts. Lots of teenagers addicted to nicotine who've never smoked a cigarette in their lives. We know that so many of these vapes contain nicotine and other substances. You might have heard Dr. Jodie Muller, a toxicology expert from the University of Wollongong, who's been analysing what's in vapes and is very concerned about some of the stuff she's found in vapes, not just nicotine, but other things as well. But a lot of people use them to try to give up smoking. So there will be about $4.3 million or so to be spent to bolster compliance and enforcement. A lot of people saying they can still get their hands on these things anyway. But $2.5 million going towards online material to help young people quit vaping. Do you know any young people who are struggling to give it up, have become addicted, almost kind of by accident, by stealth, without even realising it? Some health professionals, though, say that this crackdown will only push the sale of illicit vapes underground and might dissuade smokers from using vapes as an alternative. A lot of people support the use of vapes as a smoking cessation tool. Dr. Colin Mendelson is an expert in tobacco harm reduction and joins me now. Very good morning to you, Dr. Mendelson.
Morning, Mel.
Tell us what concerns you have, any hesitations you might have about this crackdown that the New South Wales government's announced.
Look, I understand people's concerns. Kids shouldn't be using vapes. These are adult products. And as you say, they're actually the most effective quitting aid we have for adult smokers. And that's a huge opportunity for adult smokers to get off cigarettes, which kill 2 out of 3 of them. But we don't want kids using these products. But the reality is that kids are going to use vapes. They're going to smoke, they're going to vape, they're going to drink, they're going to use illicit drugs. And unfortunately, we can't stop that. And I think what this approach is going to do is simply drive the black market underground. These products are already effectively banned. And as a result, we've got a huge black market controlled by criminal networks. There are massive numbers of vapes being imported from overseas. And doubling down on the ban is not going to be any more effective.
Okay, so can you just remind us of what your understanding is of how the regulatory regime is going to change? People can still get their hands on vapes, yes?
Yes, look, so we have in Australia, we're the only country that has this requirement for vapers to have a nicotine prescription from a doctor. Now, virtually no one is doing that. It's just not a workable solution. So less than 8% of vapers actually have a prescription. So most people buy these products from the black market. But legally, you can get products from the GP and the pharmacist with a prescription, or you can use that prescription to order from overseas. Well, with these new regulations, you won't be able to order products from overseas. To use them legally, you'll have to go to the doctor to get a prescription, and we know that's just not working. Very few doctors provide prescriptions, and patients aren't willing to do it. So the black market's just going to continue, and the crackdown, we just know from past experience with illicit drugs and alcohol and other things that crackdowns like this don't have any long-term effect on the drug supply or drug use.
We've even heard from listeners already this morning saying that their kids are getting vapes mailed to them, basically.
That's right. If there's a demand, there will be a way, and people will find a way, and the black market will find a way of providing the service. But I think we need to keep the risk to kids in perspective, Mel. Vaping is probably one of the least risky, risk-taking behaviours that kids participate in. So no one has ever died from vaping nicotine. Several years ago, when I looked at the figures, 63 teenagers had died in Australia from alcohol in that year. There's actually very little harm from vaping. Most of the harms are very mild. Serious harms are very rare. There's a lot of concern about the adolescent brain. There's no evidence it harms the brain. There are mild effects in the lungs. But most importantly, what we're seeing with youth vaping is it's diverting young people away from deadly smoking. So as vaping rates go up, and we've seen this in a lot of countries, smoking rates are going down faster than ever. And I think we've got to keep it in perspective. I mean, it's a very emotional issue, and we're very worried about kids using these drugs. But actually, the harm is much less than people think.
People would have heard possibly Dr. Jodie Muller from the University of Wollongong. She's with the School of Chemistry, and she's tested a lot of these toxic substances. Can we just have a quick listen to what she said on our drive show on Monday?
Our analysis that we perform in our labs at the University of Wollongong allows us to analyse for nicotine and the nicotine concentration, and then about 40 other compounds that we're looking for. So they're a combination of flavouring molecules and the carrier fluids, which are propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin. But most importantly, we test for 8 banned substances. So there's 8 compounds that are banned by the TGA that are not allowed to be sold in vapes in Australia because they're known to cause health effects. And we found 30 of the 750 vapes that we analysed did contain at least one banned substance. And really concerningly, 4 of those vapes contained ethylene glycol, which is which is the main component in antifreeze. And it's the first study in Australia to identify ethylene glycol. We believe it's there just as a contaminant. It's not meant to be in there. So propylene glycol, which is a very similarly structured molecule, is meant to be in vapes.
So that's Dr. Jodie Muller from the University of Wollongong speaking to Lindsay on Monday. Dr. Colin Mendelson's here with me, a tobacco harm reduction expert and a member of the expert advisory group that developed the Australian National Smoking Cessation Guidelines, as I understand it. We hear what Dr. Muller said there. It sounds concerning, though, doesn't it? It's nothing compared to the damage that cigarettes can reap long term, but...
Yes. Look, Dr. Muller is an excellent toxicologist, and I know her well. There's a couple of points to make. One is that these are black market products. These shouldn't be in the country. These are being imported by the millions, and these are not what people should be using. But because we've effectively banned vaping, the black market has stepped up and is providing these products. These are not regulated products. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there are some potentially harmful chemicals in some of these products, but how much? There's harmful chemicals everywhere, in the air we breathe, the water we drink. It's only important from a health point of view if they are above a certain threshold. Now, Dr. Muller didn't mention what the dose of those chemicals is. And that's what we need to know whether they're actually harmful or not. Because there are toxic chemicals everywhere. That we just accept.
Of course. What would you like to see? What approach would you like to see from the government, which would be a true harm minimisation across all cohorts of the population, be they young people who aren't yet addicted to nicotine, older people who are heavily addicted to nicotine? What is the best approach from your perspective?
Yeah, look, that's the question. And look, what we would like to see is that regulated vape products that meet the requirements for safety and quality are available readily as adult-only consumer products, like cigarettes, like alcohol, from licensed retail outlets. So if you're a smoker who wants to quit, you go into a licensed convenience store, you get a supply of these products, and the products, there is strict age verification, so it's much harder for kids to get these products. So we're allowing adults to access what's the most effective way to quit for them. We're keeping the products away from kids, and we're ensuring that we know exactly what's in these products, and we're able to tax them. At the moment, you can't tax a black market.
Well, it's clearly a big issue, and there is a huge black market already, and we'll see whether this crackdown works or whether the government will tweak its response yet again. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Mel.